what a thrilling moment for Davidson College to win an Atlantic 10 championship and get an opportunity to continue playing. I'm so pleased about the reward of this experience for our senior class because they have committed themselves with such a tremendous sense of teamwork, unselfishness, work ethic, and it's put us where we are right now.
Talk about how one of the things you're most proud of is how this team has continued to learn and get better on March 2nd, is what you said last time. But did you see yourself even getting even better over the weekend?
You know, it's interesting that I think we were better on Saturday than we were on Friday, but I think we were better on Sunday than we were on Saturday. And after we played that triple overtime game up in Olean, I thought we were pretty good. And then I thought we were even better that following Friday. So we seem to be taking little steps forward. And it's those little steps forward that when they're done every time you step on a court, they add up. Little steps then become a big step.
Does it feel like the middle of the season got the Richmond game and progressing forward? Did it feel like a switch almost flipped after that triple overtime game?
You know, I think there were several defining moments in the season. When we lost to Richmond on December 31st, came back and played St. Louis, I said to the team that right before the St. Louis game, I said, I'm coaching angry. We do these things over and over in practice, and you're perfect in practice, and then we go into a game, and it's as if we forgot what we did in practice so very well. I need to start coaching with joy. And it was that St. Louis game when I started acting that way and feeling that way. And in the first half of the St. Louis game here, we were just as bad as we had been at St. Louis. And I didn't go into the locker room with anger, but I went in there with joy, and all of a sudden, the switch seemed to go on. And we came back and won that game. And, of course, there were some step backs, you know, the Dayton game, obviously, the other Richmond game. But throughout it, we had some moments that they validated everything that we had worked on. And I tried to affirm to them that I was going to coach joyfully. And the VCU game was one of those defining moments. The St. Bonaventure game was another. And, of course, the one against Rhode Island coming back from the dead at the end of the game last Friday here, that was another validation. And here we go into the tournament, and we're feeling very confident, and that confidence has grown.
Coach, I've heard you mention joy twice now. Yesterday, after winning the championship, said that you thought your team played with joy. You mentioned now coaching with joy. How do you feel taking that mindset can help you going forward in an NCAA tournament?
Well, it's such a challenging experience, one and done. If you think of that, rather than think about having fun, doing something you're good at, doing something you like, and that's one of our 4 objectives that we've had since the beginning of the season, but we just lost sight of it. And I was the one who lost sight of it because I was getting annoyed. And the coach obviously sets the tone for that. So I smiled a lot this weekend. And I smiled on mistakes. I smiled on great plays. I demonstrated I wasn't just feeling happy for them, I was showing my happiness for them.
Bob, I remember how excited you were at the prospect of getting into a league, you know, that could where there could be real big possibilities.
Yeah.
I also know the challenge that you took on. Now that now that you're there, I'm saying winning a conference tournament in the A-10, which we know the competition is so different. Could you reflect a little bit on what you had to navigate over the last few years?
Well,
to get from there to here.
I certainly have the fondest of memories for the Southern Conference. It is was the heartbeat of my coaching career, and for Davidson, and Davidson will always feel a special kinship with the Southern. when we took that leap of faith, thankfully with the tremendous support of Carol Quillen, our president, and the Board of Trustees, to join the A-10, it was a leap of faith. And I can remember many of my coaching colleagues saying, "What are you doing? Do you realize how good that conference is?" And this is the 4th year. Coincidentally, there were several players on this team that are seniors that were recruited when we were in the Southern Conference. So next year will be the first full roster of A-10 players. What's happened as a result of being in the Atlantic 10 is we've been pushed to a new level of competition. Instead of going against 3 or 4 very, very talented players every night in the Southern, you're going against 7 or 8 or even 9 very, very talented players in the A-10. You're performing on national stages because you're on TV as frequently as we are. You're playing in venues that are extraordinarily exciting and electric. You go into Rhode Island, you go into Dayton, you go into VCU, to Richmond. I mean, those are electric atmospheres. You're going against coaches who are not trying to climb the ladder of corporate college coaching. They're already up that ladder of corporate college coaching, and they're very successful ones. So you're seeing coaches, players, environments that are significantly better, and it has helped our recruiting. So we don't get Kellen Grady or John Axel Goodmanson or a lot of our players if we're in the Southern. And our incoming class is very, very good, all because we're in the Atlantic 10. And of course, it's sort of a special kinship that we have with Stephen Curry that puts an exclamation point on this. Stephen is in living color every night on TV, and he has never forgotten his roots. And I mean, just yesterday, the game ends, and he's FaceTiming on the bench while they're setting up the awards ceremony. There's Stephen Curry FaceTiming with me and our team on the bench. That's how much his fingerprints are on this program.
Are you in the A-10 today, or Steph added later?
I doubt it. And there's no doubt in my mind that Stephen Curry is not just the guy who has made an impact on Davidson athletics. I don't think there's anyone who has graduated from, who has gone to school here, who has made an impact on Davidson College and the Davidson College community as Stephen Curry has.
When you knew that you were going to have to, that you were going to be going up against all those things that you just described, how did that change how you and your assistants had to do their jobs over 365 days? How much did it change your responsibility?
It energized me to an extraordinary level. I may have been getting a little stale. Being in the Southern Conference for as long as we were, having the success we had, and going through that final weekend of Southern Conference play with the pressures that were so extremely challenging, that you win the tournament or you're done. Facing that year after year after year after year can really wear you down. And I got a new job without changing my job. How many people can have that luxury? How many people love their job and all of a sudden they get a new job that they love even more, and it's in the same place?
Did it change anything about the way? I mean, obviously it changed the people you were recruiting, but did it change anything about how you approached recruiting?
No, not at all. The one thing that did change was our defense. We would play one type of defense in the Southern Conference. When we moved to the Atlantic 10, we could not feel confident playing that same style of defense. So our man-to-man defense, well, we play the gap defense rather than push the ball towards the sideline, which we had done for 20 years here.
Coach, what do you see from Kentucky and the way that they...
Well, I see a storied program with a Hall of Fame coach, with a roster filled with high school All-Americans, long, lean, athletic, who have gotten better and better as the season has progressed. And that's a pretty good indication of how good a coach John is and what kind of kids he has, that they're stars as high school players and they come to Kentucky, but they continue to get better and better still as they are freshmen.
Do you think you guys get a kick out of, I mean, all last night, whether you turned on television, whether you turned on radio, whether it was Dockich or anybody on, they were all saying, that team is really dangerous right now. You haven't seen them play, and they're really dangerous.
Was they speaking about us? I didn't see any of that last night, forgive me.
Bob, it was, you guys were, I'm not exaggerating, were the talk of talk radio national last night.
Well, I think because we play offense at such an efficient rate, and you look at our numbers, they're pretty darn impressive. Anytime there's a one and done and you shoot threes the way we do with the number of times we attempt it, it can give you a chance. But what's interesting is that we flipped the script last night, 57-56, not that many threes, and it was defense that won us the game last night, not offense. And those are the kind of experience that I think are going to be incredibly fruitful as we move forward this week, that we had to get stops in the last minute. We had to get 3 stops in that last minute. And then we did get a stop, and we lost the ball out of bounds. And then we had to get another stop with 10 seconds to go, and we did get a stop. Those things are great for the memory bank.
Hey, when you bring that up, when he slipped out of bounds, did your heart skip a beat, and what was that like?
Well, tremendous credit to Kevin Kuick, who was the scout for that game, that he really pressured me into calling a timeout. And I was a little bit hesitant because I didn't want Rhode Island to get organized. Kevin said, no, we got to do it. We called a timeout, and we got organized. And Kevin reviewed exactly what they were going to run. They ran exactly what he said. And Kellen Grady was sensational. Peyton Aldrich was sensational. John was sensational. The 5 guys were connected on that possession, and we got the stop.
Coach, Kellen Grady, you recruited him. You knew what his potential could be. Could you compare and contrast what you thought he might be able to do his freshman year, and then obviously compare that with what his body of work has been this year?
From a physical standpoint, he's everything we thought. From a technical standpoint, he shoots it better than I imagined. From an emotional standpoint, he's as humble and mature and tenacious as we could want. I never realized the tenacity that he had in terms of his thirst for winning. And he doesn't have that look, but he's a killer. And you just see the way he comes to practice, the way he digests film. And believe me, our freshmen are hit with a barrage of new information and different vernacular techniques. And he's made mistakes as he's gone through the season, but rarely does he make it more than once.
If you had to compare to a team you all have played this season to Kentucky, is there one?
I'm not one who likes to compare things, but I can tell you this. We had an incredibly challenging schedule, and there are a lot of things this year that we will face on Thursday that we faced throughout the season. Story program, North Carolina. Top 20 program, Virginia, North Carolina. Travel across the country, Nevada. Travel across the country, Hawaii. So we've been through experiences that we're going to experience in Boise against a great team like Kentucky.
You ever been to Idaho?
Yeah, we played in '94. We played in a tournament called, I think it was I don't remember what the name of it was, at Boise State. Brandon Williams was on the team. It was 1994, and we beat Lafayette in the first round, and we lost to Boise State in the championship game.
Bob, how rare do you think it is, the extent that Steph is still attached not only to the athletic department but the school in general to the degree he is?
I think if you look at NBA players and you find someone like that as completely attached as Stephen Curry is, I think it's a rare thing. Kevin Durant just gave a significant amount of money to Texas and is very close with Rick Barnes. I don't think Kevin has that same kind of affinity with Texas as Steph had. And I can go down the list of NBA players that don't have the kinship that Stephen has. They have a kinship, but not as deeply rooted as Stephen's is. Stephen has been as gracious, as kind, as committed to Davidson College away from Davidson as he was when he was here. His spirit lives on this campus.
And when you say that, what strikes me is what's special is not just that he still thinks of himself very much as part of his athletic department, but thinks of himself as part of the whole campus experience.
And that's because you can go through this town and you can see the number of Golden State jerseys, the number of number 30 jerseys, the number of people that have shadows under their eye because they stayed up watching a game on the West Coast, the number of people who feel like there's a sense of ownership that that's one of our guys, because Stephen made people feel that way. And that's a sense of congratulations to Davidson College for creating that environment of intimacy that exists only on a small college campus like this.
I just had an alum text in and ask, you've already touched on Kellen's growth as a freshman. Can you compare the growth of Steph as a freshman?
I'm not going to
Kellen,
compare,
or you don't wanna
no,
do
I don't want
that?
to touch Stephen and Kellen, no.
Okay, right.
And
There's one Stephen Curry.
in the comparison bubble, you know, that first season when you guys joined the A-10, made it to the NCAA tournament, how does that group, the Tyler Kalanaskis, the Brian Sulligans, how do they compare to the Kellen Greaves and the Clayton Aldridges?
Well, it's interesting you ask that because, you know, I've often said to John Axel, I need you to become our Tyler Kalanoski. And Tyler was one of the toughest hombres we've ever had on this school. And John's pretty close to being one of those tough hombres that is the guy who sets the tone for us. And John has just gotten better and better as the year has gone through. I used to say to John about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, playing hard and being tough is not a license for stupidity. Because John sometimes really made some mind-boggling decisions. His decision-making, because of his discipline and willingness to do details, has improved dramatically in the last month. And that's as pivotal a factor in our success as anything. Of course, Peyton Aldrich is just a special player. And he makes everybody better. And what's happened with Peyton over the last 2 weeks has been a determination emotionally that was not there maybe a month ago. Are the sands of time eroding, and therefore he wants to just relish and treasure and cherish every second that he still has with his teammates? I think so. And if you see his forceful determination compared to 3 weeks ago, that's again a big, big plus. And maybe it's a response to the confidence that he's getting from all the accolades coming his way and the success he's achieved. But his determination, John's discipline, details, and then the embrace of roles by Rusty Riegel and Will McGarity and Oscar Mickelson. Oscar and Will have become a two-headed center, and what they're doing for us as a two-headed center has been just superb because they're playing their role just as we need them to do. And Rusty comes off the bench and does the same thing. And then you have a guy like Keyshawn come in and make some threes like he did yesterday after going 0 for 8 in the previous 2 games. I mean, those 3 threes yesterday, I could not have been more happy for Keyshawn that after he made that first one, because he had struggled up to that point in the game. He makes that first one, all of a sudden, boom, he felt relaxed and confident again.
Bob, when you talk about coaching with children, how hard is it to strike a balance between holding people appropriately accountable and picking your battles in a situation like this?
It's a very big challenge, but that's why you compete. It's a challenge to be humble yet confident. It's a challenge to be to love people but discipline people. And I think being a parent really helps you in that regard. You know, as a dad, as a grandfather, you have to love your children and your grandchildren, but you also have to discipline them. And I think that that's one of the problems in our world today, that we don't have that combination of love and discipline. And coaching with joy and holding them accountable, well, let's take care of the accountability in practice. And if your guys work hard enough, and if you got an assistant coaching staff who has the same demands that you have, then those guys become accountable, and then it allows you to coach with joy once the ball is thrown up.
Coach, in a time right now where you have FBI probes, impropriety with some big name college basketball programs. How much pride do you take? There's not a whiff of that with yours, and do you feel that it's sort of a model for how things could and should be run?
I think it was Virgil who wrote the story about a shipwreck in the Mediterranean. And as the character watched that shipwreck, he was on the land, and he was feeling so joyful that he was on the land and not in the boat. That's a human instinct. I try to avoid that temptation of falling into that same type of thought. I see no satisfaction in the FBI investigation and us being clean. The only thing I can control is what we do. And believe me, we have faults here. Their faults are my failures. And that's the way I look at things. And we don't have anything like the investigation, but maybe I coach angry instead of coaching joyfully. But so maybe our players, don't pass the ball as well as they should. Maybe our players don't study as hard as they should. Well, again, I look at our faults, and I say them as my failures, and that's my focus.
As great as an opportunity it is to be going crazy this time of year, when you win that game, that everything starts all over again, and then you see the draw, and you're going all the way across the country, and you're playing Kentucky and everything that comes with it. Bob, I mean, this is a heck of a turnaround. What was last night for you? What's it going to be like for the staff between now and tip-off in terms of doing everything you can to be as prepared for that game in that location?
I have a tremendous sense of discipline, emotional discipline and physical discipline. I think only about what's in front of me. I have a certain number of tasks I have to do today that I can't even think about Thursday. And I'll reflect back upon 08, 10 years ago. I never thought about winning that game against Kansas would get us to the Final Four. That never entered my mind. What entered my mind was, how could we be at our best that day? And I've disciplined myself to have a very firm conviction that when you do what you're supposed to do, you can live with that. And we will do what we have to do to get ready to play Kentucky. And when we step on that court, I will be at peace because I know that we have done everything possible to prepare ourselves to play that game. And I had that same conviction when we played Wisconsin or Kansas or Georgetown, when we played Marquette 3, 4, 5 years ago, whenever it was, Louisville.
Coach, can you take us through your recruitment of Kellen, and was he recruited highly by any, so-called high major?
Kellen went to a Catholic high school in Boston, Catholic Central. I'm not sure the exact name of the school. As a freshman, his freshman coach was a guy by the name of Robbie Wennington. Robbie Wennington's father, Bill Wennington, played for me in high school. I've known Robbie since he was a little baby. Robbie was a high school basketball player and football player at Chicago Loyola High School, and he contemplated coming to Davidson to play basketball. I didn't think he was good enough. We did recruit him, but I told Bill and Ann, his mom and dad, that he's just not good enough to play for us. He wound up going to Boston College and became a walk-on the football team. And after Boston College, he became a teacher, English teacher, and a freshman basketball coach. Well, Kellen was so good as a freshman, they moved him up to the varsity. And Robbie called me right away and said, Coach, you got to see this kid, Kellen Grady. So we immediately put him on our radar. And Kellen transferred to Northfield Mount Hermon. So we started recruiting him at the earliest possible stage. But the biggest part of the recruitment was number 30, Stephen Curry. Kellen was often told he looked like Stephen. Kellen loves Stephen Curry. He watched tape after tape, game after game. There's a great video, a great picture of him at the Duke game when we played Duke many years ago, and Stefan's at the game watching Seth play, but also watching us play, and Kellen's getting his picture taken in the Duke jersey with Stefan. So that was a big piece of this. And he was recruited by Butler, by Villanova, by a number of very good schools. And I thought our staff did a great job of just being relentless in the recruiting process, so we did get him.
How would you describe the locker room yesterday? You got Tony dancing, you got people pouring water on you. I mean, when's the last time that happened, and what was that experience like?
It was a joyful locker room, and we've had a lot of joy in our locker room. I think they released a lot of emotion yesterday, and it was exhilarating to be part of it.
What was the deal with the boxing gloves?
We have this award we give each game called the Vito Award. Vito Antuofermo was a boxer in Philadelphia, and I stole a story from Bill Parcells. He told a story to the Giants back, the New York Giants, when he coached them way back. And Vito was fighting Hurricanes, Dynamite something, I'm not sure what his name was, a champion boxer. And Vito fought this guy, and he was like overmatched completely, but kept staying in the ring and fighting, getting knocked down, get up, getting knocked down. And finally, this guy got so tired of hitting Vito, he let his guard down once, and Vito had one pop in like the 6th, 7th round and knocked him out. And the theory is that stay in the center ring, keep fighting, and you may get lucky. And so we've communicated that to the team. That's been a sort of a legendary story in our program for a number of years. And this year we decided to, and this all happened in the St. Louis game, when we started to give the boxing gloves out to the winner of the Vito Award each game. So that's why the boxing gloves.
In keeping with that Vito mentality, you mentioned Kentucky's length. Do you see it more of a challenge for you guys to match up with their guards or Kentucky's big men?
Well, length and quickness is something that whether you're a guard or you're a big man, it's going to create chaos for you. Now, we got size. We don't have length and quickness. Those guys are wide receivers. Those guys are defensive backs with the way they can make a break on the ball, offensively, rebounding-wise, and defensively. So we're going to have challenges at every position, 1 through 5.
You talked about how important familiarity would be on the glass for you guys. How has he progressed since coming back from injury, and is he possibly a determining factor there?
Clearly he has been, and Will's size, presence, athleticism was pivotal yesterday. He had 3 blocks yesterday. I think he did a pretty good job of protecting the rim. There was one point where I didn't believe that was a Davidson team out there. As I watched down the other end, we actually challenged shots at the rim on 2 or 3 shots in a row. And so he's been the catalyst for that.
Anything else?
Well, thank you for taking your time to come up here on this miserable day. But the sun's shining in my life.